Okay, we're shooting.
Well, this is the pasture. It's about 60 acres here on the upper side, and there are about 22 cows on, and roughly about 22 calves and bigger calves. So they should have plenty of pasture here. But what I've noticed over the last few years, what happens by the end of the winter, when the snow clears the fields and some of those flying cowboys, they show around here over the farm and disperse, do some of their mischief, disperse of their vegetation control chemicals. And this is then what you get: very well fertilized ground. This is about the amount of growth you get then on well taken care of pasture. But we have been documenting it last fall when we made the other video about the amount of growth that I can expect when those vegetation control chemicals have been dumped on the hay fields, where we have been documenting last fall there in November, middle of November, the total growth between the middle of July, when the first cut of hay was taken off, until the middle of November was approximately between 4 and 5 inches on hay ground that had over the last few decades over 300 tons of manure and compost on. And basically this is a ground here in this valley from all the farmland that had the most of manure and lime on. But I'm not supposed to be benefiting from it. Only ones that are supposed to be benefiting from the fruits of their labor are the big flagships of the provincial government. The big farms, they have been supporting now for decades with huge grants and hidden subsidies. But as ordinary farmers, when we want to make a living just off the farm, we are not supposed to be able to do that unless we feed plenty of money into the pockets of the Chamber of Commerce. Basically, they want the farmer to make $1 and spend at least $4. And basically, this kind of a policy, agricultural policy, over the last 60 years, it has brought us into a situation where we are now importing 90% of the food into the region. Here into New Brunswick, Nova Scotia, situation is even more dismal, and there is an identical situation along the New England states. The government has no interest in self-sufficiency, as it was touted by Premier Lord during his administration about self-sufficiency at the time when David Allwood was his Minister of Agriculture. And as I say, don't let me start about those deadbeats that have been determining the agricultural policy here in New Brunswick over the last 50 to 60 years. It all feeds into the global agenda, Agenda 21, interconnected of the connection of the economies. Regions that are at one time are self-sufficient, they have to be made dependent on the self-sufficiency has to be eliminated, and they have to become dependent on the international market and onto the global agenda. When we were self-sufficient here on the East Coast in agricultural production, in food production, that had to be destroyed and replaced with that we become now dependent on the average of around to 90% of food imports from other areas, hopefully halfway around the world. The beef what we easily can produce here, that is not to the liking of the business community and the multinational corporations, and the politicians who are following up the global agenda. And so our beef has to be produced preferably in Australia, New Zealand, South America, and or it has to be produced in Western Canada. In the big feedlots where the cattle are being fed, not being fed anymore naturally with what's naturally their feed is, with grass and forage, but with high grain rations. And then here comes another can of worms that's been opened up with it. Those high grain rations that are being fed to the cattle, they produce a beef that is high in the fats that are harmful to us humans when we are consuming that fat. It helps clogging up the arteries and basically magnifies the cardiovascular diseases. Whereas the grass-fed beef, what we easily can produce here, healthy produced beef, where the beef is being produced with forage, it has the omega-3 fatty acids that are very conducive to the health of the cardiovascular system. But as I say, the biggest part in the provincial budget, single biggest expense in the provincial budget is health care or sickness care, caring for the sick people in the province. And that's where most of the money is being made. And I guess when things would come back to a rational level of economy, it would be very detrimental to the healthcare industries. And that's what it has become. It has become an industry, and it has become a growth industry. The more sick people there are, the more money can be made, especially by the experts and the specialists in the healthcare system, and by the big pharma, the big drug companies. Well, I want to give as much as possible a comprehensive background about environmental, agricultural Watergate, healthcare Watergate here in the place to be, as Sean Graham wanted to champion New Brunswick, and as a whole here in the Atlantic provinces, a region that could be where there could be the most healthy people in the region. Some people say, oh, we are located at the exhaust pipe of the North American continent, but because of the jet stream. But the jet stream is at least 25 to 30,000 feet overhead, and between the big industrial centers here of North America, there are huge tracts of forested lands, and the forests are being called the green lungs of the planet. So a lot of the pollution that rains down on the earth rains down in between those big industrial centers and here the maritime provinces. As I say, there's so much baloney being peddled by the so-called bogus experts. It isn't funny anymore. But what you see here, we want to look at, for example, what had been done to my animals to drive me off the land. It isn't just only that they have been destroying for many years the field crops, which has been well documented, but what has been done to the animals. And here where you see this bare spot, this is when the animals have been gassed, what I've been documenting all along, and the lethal effect of exposure. When the animals have been gassed within 2 to 3 hours, when they release themselves and pee there on the ground, then the grass gets burnt off, and for the next 2 to 3 months no grass will grow in that spot anymore. And you imagine what happens to the inside of the animals, the damage to the inside of the animals when this corrosive mixture passes through their system. We got the 11th of June, and this is the total growth here in this part of the pasture on the 11th of June. And when you see here those little plants, that is Timothy. And what I've noticed over the years, those chemicals that sterilize the ground, Timothy is especially susceptible to it. And Timothy that normally would grow 3 to 4 feet tall, it only, during the whole growing season, it will in maximum grow maybe 8 inches tall. But I guess where it comes from, this where most of the casualty among my animals when they were resting in this part of the pasture. And this affects what happens here on the soil. Most of it is being done through the use of directed energy. And when an animal or human being is so unfortunate to be in that location, and it breathes in this modified, this corrosive air, what I've been documenting in Farmer's Ordeal, it can mean a death sentence. The same thing as what it caused to 6 cows 3 and 4 weeks ago, when 6 cows died within a period of 3 weeks. And by now 5 calves are dead. The last calf that had been gassed about 5 days ago, I found it yesterday morning dead in the pasture. The mother still was guarding it. The night before I checked on the little fella, and I fed it, and yesterday morning I found it dead. Yeah, New Brunswick's a place to be. Sean Graham, you sure hightailed out of there, and but you collect your pension as an MLA and as a premier. Shame on you. The same way on his dad, Alan Graham. When I went to see him in 1989 at his office as Minister of Agriculture in Fredericton, and he promised to look into it. His letter is, the letters are all on the internet about the no-do-nothing government under Sean Graham, but there is a lot of blame to go around. It's not just only Sean Graham, Bernard Lord, David Albert, and Frank McKenna, you know, the big financial guru now. As I say, the people of New Brunswick, they've been so gullible for so many years. Well, over the last 60 years, the people of the province, they gave their trust to the big boys on the teeter-totter, liberals and conservatives. They don't want to let anybody onto the teeter-totter. It's like the 2 big bullies in the schoolyard. And the rest of the kids, that means the so-called fringe parties that could, if they would really fulfill their mandate, they could have kicked those big bullies of the teeter-totter already long ago. But as I say, you know, people get suckered in time and time and time again. But now time is running out. There is, if they get suckered in one more time, lights out for New Brunswick and here for the Maritime. Now the provincial government thinks they can bail out their economic mismanagement over the last few decades with digging into the ground and depleting the non-renewable resources and causing with the potential danger of basically messing up one of the most vital resources we have here in Atlantic Canada, and that is still good, clean drinking water. Now they are selling that resource out or endangering it with this shale gas development. Trust us, we will take care of you. And after they've taken care of us and people realize how they've been conned and people kick them out, those they trusted, they retire with their ill-gotten gain somewhere else, you know, and the people of the province, they are left with the aftermath, the people of the land, you know, the same way they conned the native people, but now the people have to depend on their living, on the renewable resources and on the land. We all have become the native people now. The yellowing of the grass, and so it can be sometimes attributed when there is excessive rain and it is the water is laying on the ground and it is poor drainage. But this is a hillside, it's deep, loam and sandy soil, so drainage is no problem here. But as I say, dealing with the provincial government, they always come up with new excuses. And by the way,